This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com. Sting definitely had a more fitting send off the last few years in AEW than if he had ended his career with those horrible WWE appearances where they pretty much paid no respect to his legacy. He went undefeated in AEW. He gave Darby Allin the rub, and from what I can tell, he had a pretty decent match for his last match. It ended up being a hardcore match involving panes of glass and lots of craziness. I have a lot of respect for Sting. I've never been a Sting fan, and I didn't want to watch 5.5 hours of wrestling, so I didn't order the pay-per-view, but I'll go through the results. Sting and Darby Allin beat the Young Bucks in a match that involved Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. In other matches, the Acclaimed, Daddy Ass, Jay White, Austin and Colton Gunn defeated Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, Private Party, and Willie Mack with Karen Jarrett and Sanjay Dutt. Could you throw any more people into that match? Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale defeated Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Those were the two pre-show matches. Then AEW Revolution started. By the way, the show was sold out, over 16,000 fans in attendance in Greensboro, North Carolina. Christian Cage defeated Daniel Garcia to retain the TNT title. Eddie Kingston defeated Bryan Danielson to retain the Continental title. Wardlow defeated Powerhouse Hobbs, Chris Jericho, Lance Archer, Hook, Brian Cage, Magnus, and Dante Martin in an all scramble match to win a shot at the world title. By the way, I was wondering if Lance Archer was still employed by them. There you go. He's still employed and managed by Jake Roberts. That's great. Roderick Strong defeated Orange Cassidy to win the AEW International title. John Moxley and Claudio defeated FTR. I'm glad to see that. FTR, the most overrated tag team in wrestling. Tony Storm with Luther and Maria May defeated Diono Perusa for the AEW Women's title. Will Ospreay defeated Konosuke Takeshita in a match that I'm sure was full of acrobatics and moves nobody would ever do in a real fight, but it appeals to this fan base, and I'm not hating on it. Samoa Joe, my old tag team partner, defeated Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland to retain the AEW World title. I was just telling Jack Kilby earlier today, for some reason, there's something about three-way matches I can never get into. And of course, once again in the main event, Sting left victorious. Congratulations to Sting on a great career, being a great role model overall. Really appreciate it. Yes, the Sting's entrance you can find on YouTube. His son's dressed up as earlier versions of Sting. I'm trying to think of what my favorite Sting match. I'm not saying he wasn't. I think I liked him best probably when he was just up in the rafters in WCW. There's no match of Sting's that stands out to me as one of my favorite matches of his. None of his matches really stand out. Maybe one of his ones against Vader. I'm not trained by Rick Bassman helped get him into the business. I've talked to Rick Bassman earlier in the week, which is now last week. The Rag Overlord liked the Joker Stig. And Rick Bassman, for whatever reason, I mean, I haven't talked to him in the last few days, but I thought he would have been at this event. Who knows? I know that Kevin Nash was asked by Sting, but didn't go out of loyalty to Triple H. So there you have it. The pay-per-view was over 5 hours. I mean, again, I'm just old school. I like doing shoot interviews and I like following the behind the scenes stuff, which is very interesting. But I remember when like WrestleMania 4 was 4 hours and everyone found that crazy long, and that was in the golden age of wrestling. A 5 hour pay-per-view containing a lot of people that I'm not even familiar with. I just would rather read the results of. But if someone posts this Sting match in full at some point, I'll probably watch it. Yeah, I don't doubt Sting versus Triple H was good. I just didn't like how they treated all of the WCW guys. They just brought them in to be jobbers. Even Ernest Miller was talking about that in his recent interview with Jack Kilby and Maurice for Cheap Heat that I actually watched today. It's also on this channel. I mean, DDP paid to get out of his contract. They just ruined DDP. Goldberg ended up having a decent run, other than this last bit where they just pretty much used Goldberg to put people over. His first run in WWE sucked, but when they brought him back with the Brock Lesnar original initial feud, they ended up getting him over. But yeah, I didn't like the way that they just everyone wanted to see Sting with the Undertaker. That's the one match that I think both Sting and the Undertaker have to be a bit disappointed never happened. I personally would have rather seen that than Sting against Triple H or Sting against Seth Rollins. But then you have to look at it. Triple H was Vince McMahon's son-in-law, and Sting was the face of WCW. So to have like McMahon blood beat Sting, I'm sure it was worth every penny they paid Sting to do that job to them. And Sting lives a really nice life. And I hope he sticks around and still appears here and there in AEW. I'm sure he will still at least manage Darby Allin in some capacity. And as I said, it got Darby Allin over. I remember seeing Darby Allin. Sorry, it's getting late here. At an Icons of Wrestling convention in Philadelphia, just thinking, he's so small, but because he was teaming with Sting, I ended up seeing a bunch of their matches, and he works really hard, puts his body on the line, and he definitely has my respect. And if he wasn't teaming with Sting, I probably wouldn't have watched him. So good for Sting for helping get the next generation over. And good for the Young Bucks for it sounds like they went out and put on a great effort to as they should have for having the honor of Sting's last match, which I do believe will be Sting's last match. Unless Saudi Arabia ends up paying an ungodly amount of money for him to come back at some point, but I don't think he will. Someone says his top five greatest of all time are Hogan, Sting, Austin, Taker, and Flair. You can't argue with those. Those would not be my personal favorites, but you can't necessarily argue with any of those. I'll give you that. Have a great night.